Hey folks, how's it going? Here we are again. What is it? Wednesday morning? Wednesday morning, right? Something like that. And we don't need this up. As a matter of fact, I'll just move on over to this one. Hey, so I hope your week has started out well for those of you who are watching live right now. Hey, today we are going to be talking about, last week we talked about how religion was a little nervous about business because religion was used to being the top dog, right? They had all the influence and power and so forth. And business was coming along saying, hey, we'd like some of that influence and power. And we were more than happy to give it to them as consumers and business people and so forth. So religion started to get a little nervous. And as we discussed, there were different responses to this growing trend of business. Well, what we're going to talk about today is how religion eventually embraced business, as in now, in order to be considered a class act in your religion, you had to engage in business. So the tables really, really turn. Hey, Shane. Great to have you along. So this is what I want to do. I want to start out with a quick survey. So I'm going to bring this on over here. The link to the survey is in the, here we go, is in the chat there. The link is in the chat. The link is also right here, and I'll go ahead and make this all big and so forth. So, hey, there you are. The link is right there. So polev.com/ and then a monstrosity of a name, because I haven't set up a fancy name because I'm still using the free service here. So, or of course you can go ahead and scan that QR code if you'd like to do that instead. But if you're watching the lecture on your phone, that's a little more difficult. So do me a favor, go ahead and take this quick survey. It's only, I think, 4 questions. Yeah, maybe 4 questions. It's completely anonymous. I can't even see who answered what. So don't worry, you are totally set. And I see that we have one person there underway. So in the meantime, I want to kind of set the stage for us a little bit. So, and let's get that out of the way there. So we have this sect, this Christian sect called the Calvinists coming into play, okay? And they're Calvinists are really concerned, as you can imagine, about going to heaven. That's kind of their whole thing. And so they are really trying to focus on, all right, what does it take to go to heaven? And they turn to the scriptures. They turn to the Bible, as you can well imagine. And they find something interesting when it comes to how to get to heaven and how this relates to business. And as we are going to see, the Calvinists basically believe that the way to get to heaven is the way to get rich in business. But once again, remember, this is not a history class. This is affecting you and me even today. And that's what this survey that we're doing right now is all about. So I see we've got 4 surveys completed. And yeah, you're going to be getting light bulbs from this, right? We got 5 surveys completed, 1 underway. We have a few more folks with us. So for those of you who are just joining, do me a favor and go out to this link right here, polev.com/ that monstrosity, or you can also with your phone scan that QR code And furthermore, the link is over in the chat as well. So if you want to copy and paste the link, you can go ahead and do that. Hey, we got Faith with us. Fantastic. Morning. Good morning. All right. So we're going to continue on. Do me a favor, though. Continue with the survey. For those of you who are like, hey, where'd that go and so forth, we will come back to it. Let's put it over here for now. We'll come back to it in a moment, but the link, if you need it, is in the chat. Okay, so let's keep going here. So what we want to talk about today is the Protestant work ethic as described by Max Weber. All right. Max Weber was an economist and a sociologist back in the day, and he did a study of the Calvinists and the Protestants, and he made the assertion that the work ethic that we follow today is really rooted in the Protestant work ethic. Okay? So here's the idea. Everyone, as a person, as a Calvinist, right? Every waking moment is dedicated to ensuring one's own election, whether or not you go to heaven, right? So not leisure and enjoyment, but only activity serves to increase the glory of God according to divine manifestations of his will. Okay, so if you want to go to heaven, you need to glorify God. That's the idea, right? Well, you don't glorify God by just sitting around. You don't glorify God by just sitting around. It's only through our works and what we accomplish in his name that brings glory to God. And so we're going to see how this leads to business. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at our survey. Let's see what we got here. And I'm going to go on presentation. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and go on to the next. All right, so here's the first question we asked is, should every able-bodied person be required to work in some way or another for their living? Okay. And the vast majority of you said yes. Okay. One person or so said, I'm not too sure I'm comfortable with that statement. It sort of depends, right? Okay, fine. Well, don't worry. We don't call out. But the vast majority of you said, yes, I agree. Every able-bodied person should be required to work in some way or another to earn a living. You can't just live off of others. Okay? Let's go on to the next one. If you want to establish a successful career, how many hours a week should you work? And I'm going to go ahead and get out of the way here. Some of you said, probably 30 hours a week. The majority of you said 50 hours a week. You said 40. The majority of you said 40. A good many, 33%, said 50 hours a week. And about one of you said 60 hours a week. Okay? We're going to see, I maintain, that your responses here are rooted in the Protestant work ethic. By the way, I'd like to point out here with like a quarter or 22% of you saying 30 hours a week, this is an emerging philosophy, one that I don't necessarily disagree with, okay? It is not in keeping with the Protestant work ethic. The Protestant work ethic says, oh, yeah, those of you who said 40, 50, or 60 hours, yeah. But this is kind of new. We'll come back to it. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. How many hours a day spent on TV, social media, and games do you consider acceptable? Okay. And over half of you said 2 hours. A third of you said 4 hours. A few of you said 6 hours. Some of you, or one person said, yeah, I think it's acceptable to spend 8 hours a day on TV, social media, and gaming. Now, this is not in keeping with the Protestant work ethic. This flies in the face of it, right? But notice, those who said 2 hours or so, yeah, that's kind of what the Protestant work ethic will teach, as we will see. All right. But the more time you spend doing leisure activities, the more the Protestants would get kind of discombobulated. Okay. That's it. So let's go ahead and close that out. All right. So here's the way the Protestant work ethic works. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm giving you okay, let's see here. How many am I giving you? First of all, we've got that. So we're going to come on over here and make sure Batman gives us the thumbs up. And then we'll give a couple more. There we go. And then we have a couple of thoughts here, by the way, Shane. You should be able to build a successful career with less hours. However, it would make sense that you can accomplish more with working. I agree. I agree. That's the thing about these surveys is I hate what I just did to you. Because there's only a million different ways to read the question, so I get it. So yeah, no judgment, guys. Doubled income with an extra 10 hours a week. Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes to get over the finish line. Fantastic comments. Let's add those in, and yes.
Hi, I'm Captain America, and I'm here to tell you, stay in school, and that if there's one thing you're going to learn from this class, it's to endure silliness.
Okay, so let's see what we have when it comes to laziness, okay? This is from the reading. Waste of time is thus the first and in principle the deadliest of sins. The span of human life is infinitely short and precious to make sure of one's own election, whether or not you go to heaven. Loss of time through sociability, idle talk, luxury, even more sleep than is necessary for health, 6 to at most 8 hours, is worthy of absolute moral condemnation. Okay, so remember the Protestants are fixated on going to heaven. And the way you go to heaven is by glorifying God. Well, you don't glorify God by sitting on a couch, eating popcorn, and streaming Netflix, right? You glorify God through what we do. So first rule of the Protestant work ethic, laziness, you need to work your ass off. Okay, let's continue. So we're going to work. Remember, we got to glorify God. Laziness is out. Let's work our asses off. What God demands is not labor in and of itself, but rational labor in a calling. In the Puritan concept of the calling, the emphasis is always placed on the methodical character of worldly asceticism, not as Luther as one of the on the acceptance of the lot, which God has irretrievably assigned to man. Okay, let's break this down because this is important. All right, first of all, it's not that God just wants to see you work. That's that work, labor, whatever. It's that he wants to see you dedicated to a role that he has assigned to you. In the Calvinist worldview, your job is your calling. Okay? So if your job is your calling, then the degree to which you succeed in your job is what will determine whether or not you go to heaven. I mean, just wrap your mind around that for a moment, right? Right now, it's like, you know what? I don't feel well. I'm not going to go to sick, or I just kind of, lollygag for the last hour on Fridays and so on and so forth. I get it. I get it. But in their worldview, this is your calling. Whether or not you go to heaven is in part determined by whether or not you work your ass off in the job that you've been given. The second thing he talks about is asceticism, which is you shouldn't be living ostentatiously, okay? So let's continue on and let me show you what we mean. Even the wealthy shall not eat without working, for even though they do not need to labor to support their own needs, there is God's commandment which they, like the poor, must obey. For everyone without exception, God's providence has prepared a calling, which he should profess and in which he should labor. It is a direct consequence of the divine scheme of things. Yeah, your job is a calling, and it doesn't matter if you're rich. You are required to work just as much as somebody who's poor, because it's not that you're working for the money. That's irrelevant. It's you're working for your place in heaven. All right? Yeah, Shane's like, yeah, no, I'm not signing up for this, right? I get it. I totally get it. But this is the idea that we're working with. Okay, let's continue on. The differentiation of men into the classes and occupations established through historical development became for Luther, as we have seen, a direct result of divine will. The perseverance of the individual in the place and within the limits which God has assigned to him was a religious duty. Okay, this is big. Let me help you. Let's translate this, okay? This is your role in your station, where you are in society in terms of your job and your position and your wealth and so forth. This is decided by God. This is divine providence. This is not this is fate, right? This is determinism. God has already determined that you should be in this job, in this role, doing this kind of work. And the degree to which you are successful will decide your place in heaven. But yeah, it's decided, and you should not buck against it, right? You should not fight this. We're going to come back to this idea. By the way, Maximus, do they only consider hard labor as acceptable labor? No, it's a great question, okay? All labor is considered acceptable labor, all right? So, and we're going to talk about this here coming up, right? So the person, the manager who's out there running factories and stamping papers and yelling at people and so forth, they're working as much as the person laboring because that's the role that God has put them in. Good question. Okay, let's keep going. So you're going to work your ass off, which means you're going to make some money. Woohoo, cheddar. You're going to make some money. But now you can't spend that money on bling. All right, check this out. The worldly Protestant asceticism acted powerfully against the spontaneous enjoyment of possessions. It restricted consumption, especially of luxuries. So, like Jesus, according to the Calvinists, you should live a pretty humble, impoverished, ascetic lifestyle. And the idea of bling and luxury and vacation and all that, no, they didn't truck with this stuff, right? So you should live a pretty simple, humble lifestyle. Okay, so now watch this. You want to go to heaven, you have to do this through your works, which means you're going to work your ass off. You're going to make some money, but you are not going to spend that money on luxury, only on the bare necessities. So what happens? Wealth is thus bad ethically only insofar as it is a temptation to idleness and sinful enjoyment of life. And its acquisition is bad only when it is with the purpose of later living merrily without care. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting rich. Nothing wrong with getting rich. The only problem is if you plan to stop working because you're rich. This is the no-no. It's even saying don't retire. Check it out. Later living merrily without care. My in-laws are off in Italy right now. They do cruises like, I'm not kidding, like 1 or 2 cruises a month. That's what they do. And they're in Italy. They're living merrily without care, breaking the Protestant work ethic. Bridger, so hard work as you can, but work as hard as you can, but don't reward yourself. Yes. Okay. So Bridger, yeah, good point, right? Work hard, but don't reward yourself with luxuries. Yeah. That's kind of what they're saying. Now, of course, you get to walk around with the self-righteous understanding that you're going to heaven and you get to lord it over others. So we all have different kinds of bling. But yeah, this is what they're saying. Just saying. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So what's going to happen? Earning and investing is a performance of duty in a calling and is not only morally permissible, but actually enjoined. The parable of the servant who was rejected because he did not increase the talent which was entrusted to him seemed to say so directly. Okay, let's break this down. So you're going to make all this money. What are you going to do with it? You're going to invest it. The scriptures, according to the Calvinists, would tell us you should be investing this money. All right, why is that a religious calling? Well, it's in the parable of the servant and the talents, right? So for those of you who don't know the parable, here's the idea. There's this rich dude, and I'm going to use modern language for the parable. I'm not going to say talents and so forth. There's this rich dude. He wants to go off for a while, leave the country or whatever. And he has 3 financial managers. And he says, I'm going to divide the money among you guys and you guys take care of my money. So he gives $10,000 to one financial manager, $5,000 to another financial manager, and $1,000 to the third financial manager. And he takes off. Okay. Well, the first one says, well, hell, I'm going to invest this money because this is what my master wants, my boss. He wants to make money. So he invests the $10,000 and he doubles it. Nice. The guy with $5,000, he does the same thing. He says, I'm going to invest this, and he doubles it. Well, the financial manager who was entrusted with $1,000, he's kind of freaking out. He doesn't want to lose his job, and the last thing he wants to do is lose this money because the market is risky. So he just sits on the money. All right, the boss comes back. And the first guy, he says to the first guy, hey, what do you do with the money? $10,000, right? And he said, well, I went ahead and invested it and I doubled it for you. And the manager says, great, here's your reward. And it's a big, fabulous reward. Awesome. Talks to the second guy who he gave $5,000. What do you do with the money? Well, I invested it and I doubled it. Great. You get the very same reward as the first guy. It doesn't matter how much money. The fact is, you used it appropriately and you doubled it, you invested it, so you get the same reward. So even if you're a baker or a laborer or a manager, it doesn't matter where you are in the social hierarchy. If you do what you're supposed to do, you get the same reward. You get to go to heaven. Talks to the third guy. What do you do with the money? He says, well, hell, investing is risky and I wasn't going to lose this money. So I just sat on it. Here's your $1,000. And the manager loses his stuff. He's just like, dude, this isn't what you're supposed to do. You're a financial manager, for crying out loud. And he fired him, kicked him out, and that's it. So the point of all this is that the Calvinists felt that the scriptures were telling them that no matter what you have, you are required to take what you earn, spend enough to survive, do well, and invest the rest. Okay? So, as a result, accumulation of wealth is inevitable. If you follow the formula, according to the Calvinists, Weber, the formula is inevitable. When the limitation of consumption, don't spend it, is combined with the release of acquisitive activity, meaning work your ass off, the inevitable practical result is obvious. Accumulation of capital through the ascetic compulsion to save. The restraints which were imposed upon the consumption of wealth naturally serve to increase it by making possible the productive investment of capital. In other words, spend it, don't spend it, invest it, right? So, yeah. Now, I believe that we can see a lot of the effects of this Protestant work ethic today. I believe that the fact that many of you said, yeah, you should work and you shouldn't spend too much time on leisure stuff, and when you're building a career, you should put in some serious hours. That's where the return is and so forth. But let's check some examples out, okay? Let's talk about poverty for a moment, all right? This is what the reading said. To wish to be poor was often argued, the same as wishing to be unhealthy. It is objectionable as a glorification of works and derogatory to the glory of God, especially begging on the part of one who is able to work. It is not only a sin of slothfulness, but a violation of the duty of brotherly love according to the apostle's own word. In other words, being poor was a major sin, or wishing to be poor, especially if you could earn a living, right? Does it impact the culture of going to college immediately as a way of investing in one's youth? Yeah. So, tremendous question. Going to college is work. Being a college student is work. It's not the same today. I'm not saying it's not the same work. I'm about to tell you a saying that was popular back in the day. When I went off to college, my grandfather told me, college is your first full-time job. Now, back when I went, yes, it really was. College was your first full-time job. I know that's not the case for you guys. We're in a different world today. But yes, College is work, and spending money on college is investing in your future. Absolutely. Protestant work ethic would totally support that. Great question. Okay, so with that, for me, it's a full-time job. Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. I know work, and let's go ahead and mark that. I know work is a full-time job. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying many of you have other full-time jobs. That's what I mean. So let me be really clear. College is a full-time job. What's different is it's probably not your first full-time job. Not for many of us anyway. Okay, let's go on. So I want to share something with you, and we're gonna play with this for a little while. There's this news report. I can't show you the news report because then I'd get sued, but I'll go ahead and I have the transcript to the most important stuff. This is a reporter talking with a guy named Mike Adams. He makes about $700 a week working 2 or 3 hours a day. Panhandling. He's a panhandler. And he's been doing this for about 20 years. Okay? And he holds up a sign there saying, "Traveling folk, hungry and broke." Okay. So for 20 years, he panhandles for about 2 or 3 hours a day, makes about $700 a week doing that. All right. So check. Oh, no. Cancel navigation. Here's the way this transcript goes down. First part of it. Interviewer. What do you do when people tell you, get a job? Mike, I've got one. I'm a traveler. You consider this your job? Damn right. Do you want to do anything else? F no. So panhandling and traveling is Mike's job. He's been doing it for 20 years. That's longer than I've ever been in a job. All right. So continuing on, the interviewer asks, would you say that you're a professional panhandler? Mike, working on it. You've got to improve? You've got to do more? Interviewer, well, yeah. Do you improve at your job? Yeah, I improve at my job. In Mike's mind, this is a job. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm fairly good. I'm always working on improving. This is what I do. Why the weird conversation? Okay. So here's a question. And I want to get some responses in here, and we'll blow up the light bulbs. Can we consider panhandling work? Is it a job? Is panhandling a job? Is it work? Just go ahead and start with yes, and then give me a reason, or no, and give me a reason. So and by the way, we're going to look at both sides. I guarantee you, we're going to look at both sides. Okay? So can panhandling be considered work? Yes, give me a reason. No, give me a reason. And let's play with this for a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and play with this a little bit. So, first of all, Jake brings up some really good things, right? He says, yeah, I agree it's a job, I say it's a job, although I'm not necessarily saying it's an ethical job. Fair enough, right? Says, I'm not sure that you're really selling a service. Kind of unclear, right? Very good. As a matter of fact, let's get some very goods going on here. All right. Maximus says, no, I don't think so. Personally, it's not creating anything. It's just a way to take from others. Is it really, making them seem like bad people? I get it, right? I really get it. Bridger, panhandling can be considered a job, but one that requires minimal effort. A person is receiving money with just a little bit, that's kind of debatable, right? I like it. Let's see, Shane, I believe it's work. Honorable, no. Ethical, no. Impressive, no. I like the way you put that, right? Continue to put in things, but I want to point some things out. You guys are talking about the Protestant work ethic. You're saying, well, okay, maybe it's work, but what are you producing? What are you giving to the community? How is this glorifying God? I mean, you're not saying glorifying God, but you're saying it's not honorable, not impressive. Minimal effort. Oh, you Calvinist, you Bridger. It should require more effort because easy money? We don't really like the idea of easy. We like to make easy money, but when we see it, kind of cringy, right? Bridger goes on to say, more of a charitable donation. Yeah. One thing that bugs me about it is that some will put out a card reader or Venmo. Yes. It's true, right? Okay, so here is my position, okay? I want to be really clear. My opinion is not right or wrong. It's how I observe and interpret the facts. You can utterly disagree with me and be just as right and wrong as I am, okay? It's just I'm sharing my thoughts. All right, so with that said, I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that panhandling is work, it's a job, and it provides value. And here's how I can prove it. Nobody's required to give them $700 a week. This is a free market economy. No one is required to give them money. They give them money for their own reasons. Now, when we say that the panhandler isn't providing a service, that's not true. Because if they weren't providing a service, we wouldn't give them money. Hell, I'm providing a service. And apparently, for a lot of people, I'm not talking to you. I want to be clear. You're paying tuition. You are covered. You're paying tuition. You're covered. But I make these videos all day long, and I don't understand. Nobody pays for them. Nobody. Well, I have a couple of people on Patreon and Join and so on and so forth. Apparently, it's not a very valuable service. Now, this isn't me going wham. This is me saying, on the other hand, a panhandler is making $700 a week. So what's the service they provide that's more valuable than my videos? Well, for different people, it's a different thing. Some people, it's guilt, right? Make them feel bad. I like it, right? Some people, it's totally, I don't want to feel guilty, right? So I'm going to give you money. Some people, have been there themselves and they're like, I get it, right? I want to help you out, so I'm going to give to you. Some people, how do I put this? I'll tell you why I give. I give as a thumb in the eye to authority. I one time saw a panhandler downtown Salt Lake panhandling near a sign that said, "Do not give to panhandlers." And I thought, I don't want an authority telling me what I should or should not do in my interactions with my fellow human being. So I gave right then and there as a gesture to authority. Okay? There's other reasons that I give as well. The point is, a lot of people give for their own reasons. Now, making someone feel good, Maximus, yes. Maybe it makes them feel good to think they are helping someone else. Yes, absolutely. We get our next one there. Shane says, I would have done the same thing. All right, Shane, right there, right? I don't want government telling me how to interact with my fellow human beings, okay? So they're providing service. They're providing a service. Now, just a thought. You know how when you're driving along and you see somebody say, "Just married, here's my Venmo account." I actually have a picture on my phone of this, but I forgot to upload it. Of course, I would remove the Venmo. But you've seen this, right? Just married, just graduated, here's my Venmo. My friends, that's panhandling. Now, it's techie, it's cool, but it's panhandling. GoFundMe, panhandling. That's what it is. It's using a cooler technology than a cardboard sign, but it's panhandling. Yeah, Shane, I'm with you. I don't like that either. But now, let me share with you one more thing. So, when I was 16 years old, so when I was 15 or so, I lived in France. Before that, I lived in England. Long story. Well, the summer when I was 16, my best friend came on out to Europe with me, and we went hitchhiking around Europe. 2 16-year-old American guys out hitchhiking around Europe, and we would go to parks just like this park, and we would juggle. And that's how we would collect money so that we could eat and keep spending this summer hitchhiking. All right? Now, just in case you're wondering, yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff right there. I mean, come on. Beyond cool. Juggling, hitchhiking around Europe, 16 years old. Our parents don't know where we are. They don't care. We don't care. And I will always look back on that time as a really, really special experience. You wish you were that cool. Actually, you're that cool. You've just done it in other ways. I exaggerate to make a point. That's panhandling. Now, isn't it interesting when 2 nice, good-looking, that's John up there, that's me, American kids are out hitchhiking and juggling and having a great old time. That's a pretty cool experience. But when you see somebody out on the corner who could use a bath holding up a cardboard sign, all of a sudden, you're a waste of space. Now, I exaggerate. Don't think I'm saying that. The point is, it's all in our perception of what's happening. So you guys in your comments here brought up some excellent, excellent points. And that's awesome. Here are a couple of quotes for you. Toil is man's allotment. Toil of brain or toil of hands, or a grief that's more than either, the grief of sin and idleness. That's from Herman Melville. He wrote Moby Dick. That's from Moby Dick. Here's something I like to say. When I'm in a checkout line, I like to chat with the cashier, although these days it's self-checkout. So I talk to myself. I'm not very interesting company. Anyway, I'll talk to the cashier and say, oh, how are you doing? How's the day going? So on and so forth. And one thing I'll say every once in a while is the only thing worse than having a job is not having a job. And let me tell you from experience, myself in my life, I've really found that to be true. The only thing worse than having a job is not having a job. Pretty rough stuff. Okay, so that means we need to go on to the second reading, Economic Revolution. But you know what? We've been doing this for close to an hour. We need to have a break. So today's break, we're all going to get up and stretch. But while we do that,
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
this is a segment that I call Lawn Rants. So I'm just going to rant for a minute or so. This Protestant work ethic, sometimes it really ticks me off. And let me tell you why. I am really driven by getting stuff done. Oh my gosh, I'm always feeling like I have to be productive and I need to show my wife that I've been a good provider and so forth. And everybody wants a piece of me and I feel like, oh, I need to deliver. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of this. Problem is, this is jacked up. I shouldn't have to define my existence by what I've produced that day. Okay, maybe for the Calvinists who are off glorifying God through their works, it worked for them. But I'm not trying to glorify anybody. I'm just trying to muddle my way through life. And here I get to feeling guilty if I sit down and read a fiction novel for a moment and I feel, oh, I should be reading some business book or should be making a video and so on. I have had this MG Midget in my garage for 15 years and I have felt guilty about not working on it. But then when I work on it, I feel guilty because that's leisure. And it's luxury, and I should be off, working or something. The only way I've been able to convince myself to actually work on the MG Midget is by starting a new YouTube channel about working on the MG Midget. That way I can take a leisure activity and turn it into work so I can feel productive. I'm telling you, it's jacked up. So there's Lon's rant. All right. Oh, let's sit back down and we'll get back to work. Oh, sometimes it feels good to let loose. All right. Economic revolution. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. We'll try to make this fairly quick. It's not a quick topic. Okay, so here's the thing. It says the market system with its essential components of land, labor, and capital was born in agony. An agony that began in the 13th century and did not run its course well into the 19th. It's not even over in the 19th. Hellbrunner, who wrote this system is still in agony. We'll talk about why. All right, so let's get into this. All right, here's a question for you. Is an NFT real? a non-fungible token. And if you don't know what an NFT is, you should be totally ashamed that a 58-year-old Gen Xer who, has a hard time actually, I'm pretty tech savvy. Anyway, you should know what an NFT is. Your generation invented them. If you don't know what an NFT is, think cryptocurrency. Not the same thing, but it's similar enough. Okay? So, Shane, you're saying yes and no. Let's play with this. Is an NFT real? Give me some rationale for why you think an NFT is real or isn't real. And you can answer both. You can say yes because blah, 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 and no because blah, blah, blah. So is an NFT real? Let's play with this. Okay, so let's come on over here, and I'm going to throw these in, and oh my gosh, fantabulous.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
Woohoo! We broke the system. I love it. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm not going to read through all the responses just because we need to, we're getting short on time, but these are excellent responses, okay? We're even going to add more there. So I maintain an NFT is absolutely real. Here's the idea, is the Mona Lisa. You and I both know the Mona Lisa, the real Mona Lisa, is off in the Louvre, okay? But now there are countless copies of the Mona Lisa. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty darn close, right? There are countless copies of the Mona Lisa. But everybody can agree that all of these are just copies. The real one is in the Louvre. It's owned by the French people. Okay. Well, now, what about digital art? And you guys point this out very nicely. Is digital art not art? Well, of course it's art. Just because the medium is different, you're painting with pixels rather than paint, doesn't mean it's not art. Okay, so I create some digital art, like my graphic here for my shirts. I create that digital art. I own it. But now when I copy it, it can be copied exactly infinite number of times. And so therefore, I can't own it because it's copied, it's out there, and you could try to chase down people who say this is the original. How do you figure out the original? An NFT is just basically a non-fungible token, meaning non-fungible. It can only be attached to this one thing. It's a code, as you say, a fancy receipt that says this particular GIF is, or GIF, is the real one. This JPEG, this is the original. You own the original. Now, what does that mean monetarily and so forth? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you can actually pay an artist to make something and you can own the original. It'll be copied 1,000,000 times, but you own the original. Just as in a photographer owning the original, a painter owning the original. An NFT is a way that digital artists can own the original. Now, why? I think now that I've explained it, that's pretty basic. That's pretty straightforward. The problem is, it's abstract. And abstract is really difficult, okay? It's like when you're saying, well, yeah, it's real, but you can't touch it and hold it, right? And it's like, well, you can't touch and hold the view from your back window, but it has value, right? So let's check out the reading here, and we'll talk through this. I'm going to try to get through this quick. First, I'm going to get out of the way. The whole world until the 16th and 17th centuries could not envision the market system for the thoroughly sound reason that land, labor, and capital, the basic agents of production, which the market system allocates, did not yet exist. Land, labor, and capital, in the sense of soil, human beings, and tools, of course, coexistent with society itself. But the idea of abstract land or abstract labor did not immediately suggest itself to the human mind. So what do we mean by abstract here, right? I'm going to skip this. Let's talk about abstract land. Take, for example, land. As late as the 14th or 15th century, there was no land, at least in the modern sense of freely saleable, rent-producing property. There were lands, of course, estates, manors, principalities, but these were emphatically not real estate to be bought and sold as occasion warranted, right? So here's the thing. People have always lived on land and have always worked the land, but everybody owned the land. There was no ownership. It was land held in common land. Even today, many, Utah, any land that's, Bureau of Land Management, BLT land, it's considered common land. You can graze on it, you can camp on it, you can bike on it, you can do anything you want on it. Nobody owns it. It's owned by the people. And so for the longest time, we're talking centuries, people just worked the land, right? But then some folks came in and said, I think we should own it. We should own the land. And that seemed so weird to people. Now, you and I, it makes all the sense in the world. You own your land. To them, it was bizarre. It was abstract. So check this out. Can you own sunlight? Sure. Here's a couple of articles talking about how you actually, in some cases, some countries, situations, you have to actually buy sunlight rights. If you build a great big skyscraper in front of somebody else's small skyscraper, and block the sun, you've taken their sunlight, and you have to remunerate them for the sunlight. It's the same thing when you buy a house and, oh, this beautiful view, this is fantastic. That view has value. Now, you can't package it and so on and so forth, but just like sunlight has value, a view has value, and yet when people block your view, the value of your home goes down. And so people get all uptight when you block my view. So these are abstract ideas. The idea of owning sunlight, owning a view, owning an NFT. Well, for the longest period, land was something that was abstract. Okay? Now, the reading goes on, and I'll let you guys do this, but find in the section in the reading about enclosures. And it talks about how land started to be parsed out. Or you can watch the movie Open Range with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall. It's actually a really good cowboy movie that is all about this enclosure stuff. So kind of fun. But find the section in the reading talking about enclosures and what this did to workers. All right. Same thing goes for labor, guys. There was, let's see. Yeah, we're still good. For the longest time, how did we get work done? Well, it was either through custom. Find a section in the reading on it. So, for example, my last name is Schiffbauer, which in German means shipbuilder. So it was tradition for my family to work as shipbuilders. Or we used command, which was indentured servitude, slavery, forced labor, things like this. The whole economy of the world was run on slavery for the vast majority of history. Well, we got rid of all this, thank goodness, and replaced it with a market system. And the market system is you can do whatever you want. Whatever somebody will pay you to do, you can do it. You want to be a plumber, you want to be an electrician, you want to be a project manager, you want to be an architect, you want to be an artist, you can do anything you want. Of course, somebody will need to pay you if you want to survive, but it's completely up to you. And you're going to find that this actually sort of freaked out. Again, I'm kind of pointing you to where the readings are, all right? It freaked people out because they're like, well, if we don't find slaves to do the crappy work, who's going to do the dirty jobs? There's Mike Rowe, host of Dirty Jobs. I love the show Dirty Jobs. There's a lot of deep meaning to that. You know, who's going to do the dirty work? Who's going to do the dirty jobs? And the answer is basically, it's going to go by enlightened self-interest and the profit motive. This I will read. If there was to be no external control, such as tradition or command, what incentive would actuate men in their industrial existence? What force held economic society together? In other words, if you don't force someone to work or give them a last name that says you do this job, what's going to make them work, especially the crap jobs? The answer was a plain one. Enlightened self-interest was the incentive. Universal free competition was the force. So, for example, you guys right now, I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know what your jobs are, but I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say they're not jobs where you want to spend the rest of your career, which is why you're in college. You want to get out of the role you're in and move up to a higher tier. In other words, you are willing to do a job that other people don't really want to do, including you, because you got to pay the bills and you got to start somewhere. And it's in your best interest to pay the bills and start somewhere and work your way up. That's the idea of enlightened self-interest and the profit motive. Okay? In other words, a natural and sufficient economic force was always tending to act and produce the best results, except in as far as was interfered by external regulation. We're going to talk about that in a future lecture. If man wishes to earn wages to receive payment, he must observe what work another man wants done or what goods another man desires and offer to do the work or furnish those goods so the man may be willing to remunerate him. In other words, if you want to make money, find out who needs work done, you do the work, and they pay you. And it's totally up to you where you apply your efforts. This was a new idea back in this day. In this way, both obtain what they want. All right? But, and we'll end it on this, people must be willing to choose for themselves, which is actually a tie-in to next week's lecture on laissez-faire. So I want to just kind of point out where those readings are for you and make sure that you're all set. But like I say, we've sort of run out of time. I want to allow some time for questions, interaction, and so on and so forth. But sorry for screaming through that second reading, but come back to this lecture in the video, pull up those slides, see where they are in the reading, read those, understand them, and you'll be in great shape. Okay. So, yeah, that's it, folks. That's excellent work today on the comments and the engagement. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. That's the pay you give me for doing all this, and I appreciate it. As always, send me an email. Send me an email letting me know you are here. You'll get the extra credit points that way. And as usual, I'm going to stick around for a while and answer any questions you have. If you want to set up a Zoom meeting, we can do that, or just do it through chat. Let me know. But great work. And until we talk again, have a fantastic day.